I'm excited. I don't think it'll be too bad. I know we had those practices in the summertime, so I think that's prepared us for now. Although we are practicing for longer, I think everybody's excited to get back to it and having season start soon.
Bugs, that was kind of the theme this summer too, and what we heard from you guys is kind of gelling as a group. Do you feel like you've gotten closer since then, at least to this point?
I do think that, especially after the trip, we connected in a lot of ways, and I think that's helped us too. But yeah, I think we have gelled even more, and then I think we'll do that even more as we practice and get ready for season, because we're going to be putting pieces together and learning new things and how to play with each other even more. So
What was your favorite part about that trip? Any highlights?
I'm just gonna say Rome. Rome was our highlight or my highlight. So.
Jada, talking about gelling for you as a newcomer, what stands out to you about what the program's all about and finding your place in it?
Really just how much time they take in like preparing us for like practice and different things. Like they didn't just go straight into practice. They really like made us bond with each other, with not just our teammates but the coaches as well. Like getting a feel of how we are as people before we go into practice and obviously see how we are as players and develop like what we do and our individual assets. So it's been really different from that experience because I didn't have that coming from the school I came from. So just that new experience and then the competitiveness throughout practice. Any team that's put together is going to win or compete to win. The scores are close. We're competing all the time, playing hard. So.
Gina, how do you feel like you guys have gelled kind of to this point, and what do you think you guys need to do? I guess leading up to that opener to really be a cohesive unit.
I think just being more open to criticism. I think we take that very well, but like I think that's what's gonna make us better. Because we do have a lot of new people coming in, so just being able to take criticism and then apply it. I think that'll be our biggest thing. Since we'll be new, I have new players. Yeah, that's the main thing, really. Just open to critique and a lot of want to. We're gonna be really good. So yeah.
Bugs, do you have any expectations for the season? Obviously you probably have big goals, but have you put any written any down or yeah?
I have some in mind. I haven't written them down. I probably should, but honestly, just go out there and be comfortable. And we want to win. And I know this summer's been a lot of connectiveness, and I think I'm excited for that. Like I think we're really close, so we'll do really good. But honestly, just win and do it in a fun way.
Bugs, last year you were a freshman. This year you've been around as long as basically anyone not named Sarah Andrews. How different is that for you? Or what's the feeling like from year one to year two, Sarah?
I would say more. I'm more comfortable. I feel like in a way. I think last year was kind of nervous. I was new freshman, but I think more comfortable, and I think that although I am a sophomore, being able to help those junior seniors this year because like they're new, and I know I have a feel for what Coach Nicki and the coaches want because I have been here just for another year. So honestly, I think that, and I know the new players they're very open to, hey, well, Bugs, what's this or what do I do? And I think just taking on that role it's helping me too because it's making me step up to be a leader and use my voice and let them know what's up. So.
Gina, what's been your impression of Sarah Andrews so far, just playing around in a guard like that?
I mean, I've known her for a minute, just being around her during like the AAU circuit and knowing her throughout high school. But just being able to have the chance to play with her on like a collegiate level and the impact that she makes, I want to be another like smaller guard who can make that same kind of impact. And like with us together and the team we're gonna have this year, I feel like it's gonna be really special and really hard to guard. So.
Jada, Nikki kind of mentioned your on-ball defense and just that you are all over the court. Is that kind of what you hope to bring, I guess, this season to this Baylor team? And what's your style of play, I guess, in your own words?
Yeah, that's definitely my style. I'm used to playing aggressive, but also being here, I've learned a lot of fundamentals on defense. Just being more sound, being able to not get beat because I can play aggressive. But if you can like not get beat in the half court, can play disciplined defense when the game is on the line. That makes you even more dangerous. So just doing things like that, paying attention to like just different footwork and not fouling. I know that was like a main thing last year, just having a lot of fouls. So keeping that down, but still keeping my aggressive play and playing the fundamental game that Coach Nicki wants me to play. So.
Jada, you were with Dre, I guess, a year at Kentucky. For us that didn't get to see her play last year, what does she bring, and what was that like, kind of reuniting with her, I guess, too?
Well, as y'all can see, she brings a whole lot of energy. Very energetic, but she's also very powerful and dominant on the floor too. Very strong. She's like a guard, dang near running the floor. She's always open. I guess like if I look up and see her running down the floor, she'll always be open. So she runs like pretty fast, pretty much faster than all the fours that you usually see on the floor. She can shoot the three. She has a lot of different things to her that I know she hasn't got to show for Baylor yet, so I'm really excited for her to get back on the court for like her last year and really show out and prove to everyone that she can still, do this and continue to play basketball after.
Bugs, obviously, you still got a lot of time before you take that next step. But, we've seen kind of Nicki interact with former Baylor players in the WNBA, and it seems like that's kind of her goal is to prepare, her players for that moment. How do you feel like that kind of translates to you guys as a group and knowing that she'll even kind of have your back even when you do take that next step?
I think because of her connection to the league, she pours a lot of her knowledge onto us, and I think that's really helpful. I know like a lot of small details that they do in the league. She teaches us that, and although we may not see it now, I think that'll help us a lot in the long run. But I think just her knowledge is what's really going to take us far, and I think that we're all willing to listen to her, and we know like she has that connection, so we're all willing to listen to her, and even though we don't, or like, oh, I don't know what this is or how this works yet, we trust her.
Jada, coming in from Kentucky, what are some of the big differences you've noticed between these programs?
Really just the name, obviously. Everyone comes to compete in every conference, so I'm not really expecting any like drop off or anything like that. I'm excited to play new teams that I've never like played before. Look at new scouting reports, see how different players play in the conference, and then just I guess the feel of it being in the Big 12. So.
Thank you.
That's a good question. Probably a question easier to answer in November in some ways. Like, I think the foundation of what we do, how we do it, we certainly, in all honesty, like, we didn't go 3 hours. We didn't even go close. We were closer to 2 this summer, and today it's about 2.5. So, I still think there's the same level of excitement / trepidation. Like, I think the great thing about the 30 practices in 42 days is there's a lot of days off mixed in there. I think there's only one time up until our first game that we go 4 days in a row without a day off. So we've got a lot of 3 on, 1 off, 2 on, 1 off, 2 on, 2 off, and try to give them a couple weekends since we know it's pretty much the last time they get that opportunity. So I think there'll be comfort in what a practice looks like, but I still think it'll feel a lot more real now.
Nicki, you said kind of we won't know until November, but that's kind of coming up pretty fast. I mean, is that kind of the feeling for you too as a coach? Just kind of like it almost sneaks up on you, or what's the mood there?
Yeah, I think people ask me, coming back to college from the pros, like the biggest difference or something that, I was looking forward to. And I said, well, we would average 12 practices before we started games when it came to training camp and the pros. And you think 30 practices in 42 days, like, what the heck? That's a lot, and we certainly didn't go 3 hours in training camp with with pros, but there's so much more to teach. And so it doesn't matter how long you do this, you never quite feel prepared. There's always something, whether it's you don't feel great about your zone offense yet, or you wanted to add a press and you felt like, you really were with a new group, getting kind of those half court principles down pat before you move to extending it to the full court. So, it does sneak up on you, no matter how much time it appears to be. It's amazing how you look back and it's like, didn't we just end, and it's April and now it's almost October. So, really just looking forward to seeing how this team does, kind of put one foot in front of the other and get better at some of the simple things. I mean, we put in kind of a new offense, not in totality, but a piece of it, last week. Because I think one of the things I've always said is I'm not a big believer in necessarily plug and play. It's like every team's a little bit different, and what can we do different with this group that makes them hard to guard, at least at the offensive end. And so because of that, you start to tweak and play with things. And this is still that time where you figure out if a lot of that thinking that you had in terms of what could be good for this group, this is kind of that exciting time of figuring out, is it in reality what I thought it was going to be? Because sometimes you just got to scrap stuff. I mean, there are things you put in and you think are going to be really, really good for your team, and you realize, I thought Dre would be better at this. I thought Asia would be better at this. And it doesn't mean they're not great players, but this kind of how you build it up in your head. I don't spend a lot of time watching Jokic tape because, there's not a lot of people that can do that. You want to put in Milwaukee's defensive scheme, but, Giannis is kind of a different beast. So it's really good to watch and learn from other people, but, how does it translate to your group?
What's been your read from the practices you have had and the trip at this point of the year anyway? What's your read on just the group as collectively what they could be, or what's different about them?
I think we're ahead in some ways, even with some of the injuries that we've had and not having Sarah out there, who's probably has the most understanding of what we do and why. But I do think we're ahead on the offensive side of the ball than we've been the last couple years. Just really understanding, even as we put different things in, that the spacing component, how we play in transition, angles on screens, just philosophically who we are and what we are trying to accomplish. And so that's what I like so far. I think, it's always like the push-pull. We at Friday's practice, we shot it great. We screened really, really well. But on the flip side, that means we didn't get through screens very well. So, you're always in that this time of year until you can kind of get your guys' practice squad and start whipping them. It's a little bit on every single action, it's a push-pull of it was good offensively, but the defense didn't get through and vice versa. So I think that's where we're at right now. I think we're behind defensively as we kind of change up some schemes defensively. I think we've got a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball.
Coach, I guess moving forward next 42 days, how limited is Sarah, and kind of what does her timeline look like heading into the season coming up?
Yeah, she's in return to play protocol, so that part, the return to play part, sounds really, really good. And so at this point, from an injury perspective, we feel really good about where she's at. But at the same time, if there's anything we've learned over the last 10 years in terms of how do you keep someone who hasn't been doing the level of physical play from getting injured and doing something to injure themselves in another way because maybe they're just not in the physical condition to be able to kind of keep up in a 2.5-hour practice. So we're going to just be really, really careful with her in terms of how we integrate her, but she should be back little by little every practice. It's not that you won't see her today. It's just she's going to be really, really limited in terms of what we have her in and then trying to ramp that up a little bit at a time. So that we don't pull quads and hamstrings and things that would be nagging, and really get her in shape and ready to play.
Coach, what's the message and tone that you want to establish in these first practices?
Yeah, really it's about communication and pace. I mean, those are the biggest things. Our thought for the day today is all about communication. That losing teams don't talk. Average teams talk a little. Good teams talk more, but it's the championship teams that talk about talking more. And so that's a big thing for us is really with new pieces and new players, really echoing, listening when you need to listen, talking when you need to talk, and then just pace in and out of drills, pace sideline to sideline, pace end line to end line, and just kind of the idea of while competing while you're doing all of that. So a big message always for our team is failing forward. You can't get better if you don't fail, but you can't let one failure turn into two, which turns into a bad day, which turns into a bad week, and then you can't get out of your own way. So a lot of it is about, are you learning from your mistakes and not being afraid to make mistakes, but really, really learning and growing.
Nicki, I don't know if you've ever gone through anything like this, but starting over here, then going over to the Pavilion, what would that be like? Or is that you nervous about that at all? Or
A little bit, yeah. I'm not nervous from how does it affect how we play. I think just coaches are creatures of habit. There's no question. I mean, most humans are as well, but just the routine of the day, wanting that to feel like a true home court for us, and not knowing how much we'll be able to get on there and practice because it will still be an active construction site, really with the development center and everything else. So I would certainly love that if move-in date happened, we were like literally fully moving in. So I think the challenge is going to be what that looks like, and I don't know. Like I really, we can all look at it right now and say it doesn't look like it's ready for a game anytime soon. And yet, when you think about how quickly it's gone up and, when we would go to the football games and ride the boat and it was just dirt, and it was like, oh, okay, there's going to be something there. So, but I do think it's going to be a unique challenge of how we feel. I mean, I think it's still going to come down to we're going to play well there if we compete and we have great fans, and regardless of where we're at, I think that's the big piece. As long as fans can be there and support us and create a home court advantage, I think it's going to be exciting one way or the other. But I think it'll be really exciting when we're really over there full time and it feels like home day in and day out, and these things are happening there as well.
Buggs was pretty good last year. What do you expect any steps forward for her this year, and what are those steps?
Yeah, she was pretty good last year.
I'm new here.
Definitely agree. I think the biggest step forward for her is going to be scoring outside of 5 feet. I mean, I don't think that's, do we want her to stretch to the arc? Yes. But I would be really happy if she consistently knocked down her 15-footer because I know that's something that she's capable of, playing at the elbows, which then makes her more dangerous to rip and drive it from the elbows, picking and popping in space, and attacking off the bounce. I mean, she was phenomenal overseas. It doesn't necessarily translate, but I thought she did such a good job. I think one of her challenges a year ago was her pivot foot was a little sloppy, and her footwork is a lot better, which is super normal with freshmen, but really getting her pivot foot down on her catch, whether it's to drive from the perimeter, when we were overseas, she did such a good job of playing around contact. Certainly she's never going to be the most physical specimen that you've seen, so using her length and her ability to play around people instead of through them. I've joked about we've got players that are heat-seeking missiles on this team. She's kind of the opposite. She's going to search the way around rather than through somebody, and that's just smart. That's playing to your strengths. And so, but I really think where the growth is going to happen is her ability to put the ball on the floor a little bit more and to catch and shoot it from the perimeter. I mean, last year she was over a point per shot, but, she shot just over 25% from outside of 5 feet. Everything inside of 5 feet, she was well over 50%. So driving that up to 40% would would go a huge way in terms of production, efficiency, and really how teams guard her. Late in the year, there were certain teams that wouldn't leave the paint on her, and so, she needs to be able to take advantage if teams are really going to kind of not guard her.
Coach, you also talked about, Buggs did, about how your experience with the WNBA has kind of helped them progress because you bring that to the collegiate level. How important do you think that relationship is, when they do make the jump to the league, to kind of still stay in touch with them and prepare them for that moment?
I think a lot of it is terminology. It's how we play. It's how we talk about the game. There's a language that I didn't speak before I went to the league that I now speak that is my normal vocabulary. We talk about points of attack, and we talk about the nail and screening the nail and two-man and three-man. And we just use terminology that, back screen in the pros is a Spain action. Like there are just there's a language that once you speak it, it makes it easier for you to make that transition because you don't get a lot of time to rep things. And so repetition is a big deal at the college level. At the pro level, you get limited reps, especially, early on when you're fighting for a roster spot. And so, being able to translate when someone says, I mean, you can go to our practices, it would be unusual for you not to come in and me just say, throw it up. I want a drag screen. I want to hit the pop. We're going to drive. We're going to hit the drift. The drift needs to reattack and get it to the person at the Sic'Em. Like we're going to talk a language that translates so that, because that is how, at first they look at you like you're speaking Spanish, but slowly and surely they really begin to understand that language. So that's one of the things. I think spacing, you just see clean lanes in the W. You don't see a lot of traditional, even with the unbelievable low post players, Asia Wilson doesn't just play in the post. She moves around. It's all screening action. We want to be the team that sets more pick and rolls and step ups than any team in America. And so you're going to leave here understanding two-man action, three-man action, playing in ball screens. If you're a guard, what those reads are. Like we don't teach traditional screen and open up like a fence. We teach step and speed to the rim. And so a lot of the things we talk about, putting pressure on the rim, putting foul pressure, it's just, it makes it easy for those guys. And yeah, we want to stay in contact with our former players. I mean, when Queen got traded, she was pretty disappointed, like in one hand, it feels like someone doesn't believe in you anymore. And we went back and forth on what it meant to have another team that did believe in her, and a team that had great veterans and an opportunity to make the playoffs right away, which means playoff bonuses and, kind of the implications of it's great to be on the all-rookie team and start. But it's also fun to be in the playoffs and play on a team that's got more of a shot to win, and I think Indiana's going to win long-term. I think they're building it right. And they have a really good young nucleus. But, part of learning in that league is learning from great vets. And, when Melissa and Queen were starting as rookies, it's going to be hard to be successful, right away. Just doesn't usually happen. You can slide a really good rookie in with a team full of veterans like Shakira Austin did in Washington last year, but it's really hard to win with a bunch of young players in that league full of 30-year-olds.
You brought in a lot of transfers this offseason. Who are some of the players who have really popped since you brought them in?
It's really hard to say. I think that because they've all had their moments. We brought players in who are productive where they were at. And so I think all of them have had moments. I think Yaya is as good as we thought she was going to be. I think she's a player who is one of those heat-seeking missiles, but has a unique way of getting her shoulders square and finishing at the rim, and is a real three-point play threat. But she can also pass off the bounce and shoot it. So she really is a three-level scorer, and I don't say that lightly. In fact, I think there are very few three-level scorers in college women's basketball. I think there's a lot of two-level scorers, and we say they take shots at all three levels, but are they productive at all three levels? Not very often. And so I think she's capable of doing that. It's just about making good decisions. When you play on a team where you're option 1, 2, and 3, you're forced to take shots that we don't need her to take. And so really understanding good shot, bad shot, when to create, when to just move the ball in space. Jada is someone who just competes every possession, and I thought played pretty well overseas, but, has a good mid-range shot, which we haven't had a lot of, like, real good mid-range shooters, certainly players that could make them. But, I mean, when she gets to her left hand at 15 feet off the bounce, I feel pretty much like it's a layup for her. But, Letty's every bit of 6'7" and can rim protect. And I think Madison's going to surprise some people because she can shoot the 3 and is versatile, is a versatile 5 for us. And Danae can really shoot it, and it's tough. So, I mean, they've all, like, had moments, and I think they can all impact us. All right. Thanks, guys.